All right, everyone. Hello. Happy Friday. Hope you're avoiding the smoke. Anti-vaxxers are always avoiding this smoke, am I right? Anyway, we got another live call-in show. Let me log into the Discord. There we go. All right, the Discord is now officially open for anybody who wants to come up and chat. In the meantime, I'll talk about the elephant in the room. I got a haircut. I almost wasn't going to mention that. I forgot. But yeah, it's way too hot here. And my HVAC broke during the last heat wave. And so that made me think, I don't want this long hair making me extra hot. Let me just get rid of it for now. It'll grow back. It's fine. Then I don't have to pick it out to do my videos, which means less for me to do when preparing to make my videos, which means I'm more likely to actually sit down and make videos. So that should be fine, I guess. Oh, I should get my microphone over here. That would probably be good. There we go. It's probably better. Yes, the fro will be back. Don't worry. It'll be nice to have when winter comes around. Hello from Mexico City. I loved visiting Mexico City. I got to visit in 2019. That's where I proposed to my now wife. And that was by far the best trip I have ever been on. We went to Mexico City. We also went to Guadalajara, Guanajuato, and Puerto Vallarta. It's disturbing to you. Well, I get that sometimes. But hey, I'm not here for my looks. I just think of the scene in Undercover Brother when he's at the end when the villain cuts off part of his afro and he's like, "You mess with the fro, you gots to go." And I'm that guy now. I cut my afro off. Sorry. Anyway, sweaty hello from London. Well, we got smoke in the U.S. as well as heat. So, glad that you don't have that, at least. But anyway, we had earlier this week a confirmation hearing for the new proposed director of the CDC. If I'm going to talk about her, I should probably remember her name. Let's see. Either way, it was awful. A lot of people had high hopes about this person. She has the right credentials. She has the right experience for a CDC director. But during questioning, she did not perform, which is a real shame. I personally was not really hopeful because, I mean, Trump picked her. So I was like, okay, he's okay with this person, so what's the catch? Like, all the right credentials, sounds great, but no. So I didn't watch the whole confirmation hearing where basically members of the Senate the Senate and the House, I think, got to question, or just the Senate for now, got to question her and basically interview her for the job. Her name is Erica Schwartz. And yeah, she was not answering questions in a way that I would want to see questions answered. When asked specifically about the flu policies and the approach to flu vaccines that RFK Jr. took last year, and earlier this year, he she basically said, well, it was a different approach to priorities in terms of what to fund. But the senator questioning her correctly pointed out that this stuff was already appropriated. The funds were already in the books and assigned to flu vaccine promotion and recommendations and assistance with rollout. And she just kind of brushed that aside. Said no, it was just a difference in priorities. That's my understanding, and just totally sidestepping the gross negligence that RFK Jr. is taking in terms of public health, and specifically against vaccines. So I'm not happy that she is the new nominee, but hopefully she doesn't actually get confirmed, because now Bill Cassidy seems to have grown a spine now that he's actually leaving Congress after 2026 elections. And he's actually showing, some anger at the misinformation that these people are pushing. Which, where was that when RFK Jr. was getting questioned and he had the deciding vote almost 2 times to say no to RFK Jr.? Anyway, anyone who wants to come up on the Discord and talk is welcome. I doubt we'll get any anti-vaxxers today, but I'll stay on for at least, at the latest, until 4. Not a fan.
Hello, Doctor. How's it going?
Hey, Red's Rhetoric. What's up?
Not much. Another day in paradise. I have a question for you, a really depressing one.
Sure.
Do you think humanity is absolutely cooked? Because I see stupidity constantly gaining traction and the actual facts of the matter, scientific rigor and all that stuff kind of take a back seat when it comes to just general media. It seems like it's popular to be stupid nowadays. What say you?
It's not positive. It's hard to be positive, I guess. I kind of just say we're cooked. Um, it sucks. Like, people are getting their information from podcast bros who just say shit. They just say whatever they want, and people are like, yeah, that's a vibe, and then they believe it. They're not really doing the work to, like, actually look into things. Um, we're all guilty of that to some degree, but they're basing, like, very important takes and, like, big parts of their personality on it. And so yeah, it's depressing. I don't have the data to say, like, oh, we're this much stupider now than we used to be. People have always been stupid to some degree, but um, it just with AI and the way the internet has become just like more like attention g- gaming and economy instead of just like being social media. Like, I don't know. I don't know what we're heading toward, but it's not, it's hard to be positive a lot of the time, I think. I mean, you've been debating flat earthers forever, so I
Yeah.
can't imagine you have a much more positive view.
Why do you think I asked you this question?
Because you want to commiserate with me.
I mean, I'm just saying, humanity, we had a good run. We had a good run, and then Idiocracy became a documentary.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Electrolytes is what plants crave, and it's going to get worse.
Yeah, I don't know if it's getting better. I mean, it just like there have been so many times in the last 5 years where I've just been like, okay, like this is the worst. Like, people have to see this now, right? People have to see like what's going on now, right? But no, it just, people just keep being okay with horrendously stupid people running the most important institutions in the world. And
RFK.
RFK and the whole company, like the whole like entourage around him. It's like, why are we picking the worst people in the world to make these decisions? And it just we're just being okay with it. We're not angry enough. We're not doing enough. But it's like, yeah, it's frustrating. It's very frustrating.
I mean, do you remember um do you remember when you debated Steve?
Oh yeah.
And I have to say that that was probably the most thorough ass kicking I've ever seen on the internet. And still, despite that, there are people actually defending that guy. There are
Hmm.
people following him and giving him money.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
what more do you want?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm always gonna be very proud of how Dave and I handled those two clowns. I mean, it went way worse for them than I really imagined. But yeah, people still support him. I
It
from
was
what
a
I
massacre.
yeah.
Quite frankly, dude, I think you should be ashamed of yourself. Beating a dead body like that
God.
is, it looks bad. I mean, stop. He's already dead.
It's not beating a dead body when it gets up and keeps yapping.
In that case, yeah, yeah. Kill the zombie. Kill the
Yeah.
zombie. But
Honestly.
and and for those of you watching at home, no, I am not condoning violence. Um,
Oh no.
with all that being said, it's like seriously, that was one of the most thorough ass kickings I've ever seen, and he still has support. At that
Hmm.
point, you essentially are forced to come to the conclusion that humanity is cooked. It doesn't matter how badly these jokers absolutely get obliterated. There's going to be people out there that want to continuously push the garbage story that vaccines cause autism or myocarditis or whatever the
Hmm.
scary word is this week.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I have to say I wasn't surprised that he still has supporters. I mean, I even before I started my YouTube channel, of course, I was, uh, you know, I learned about James Randi's life and the work he did, exposing charlatans like live on stage for everybody to see. And for those who might not know, the really famous example was there was a guy named Yuri Geller. He was like famous for bending spoons and shit, and it was all just magic tricks, like sleight of hand stuff. And James Randi, who was a magician and a skeptic, was like, "Hey, like I will uh, have a cash prize for anybody who can prove the paranormal or psychic abilities." And your James Randi and a talk show host basically set up. It was kind of a sting event where Yuri Geller like did a magic trick on stage where he like turned the page of an open book without touching it. And then Randy comes on stage and Yuri Geller I think didn't know that James Randi was there. And he's like, "Well, I think you're doing it just by blowing on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle some little pieces of paper around the book. And when you do it again, the little pieces of paper will move too because it's breath from your mouth." And Yuri Geller like jazzes himself up and goes to like do his little magic trick again, and he's like, "I can't do it. I can't do it. The vibes aren't right." Like, so he's like exposing people to their faces. He also exposed Peter Popoff, who had his wife. He was a mega church asshole guy who had his wife telling him in an earpiece like what the people he was like blessing in the um, congregation, like details about their lives that they had written.
Oh yeah.
And
What they call that, hot reading or something?
uh, in this case, these people like came into the church and they wrote things like "Please pray for my grandpa with cancer" or something, and
I
then
see.
he would like pray on them or like bless them or whatever. And his wife was telling, and he would like say, "I know you have a grandpa with cancer," and they'd be like, "Oh, how'd you know?" And he'd bless them, and they'd fall over. And his wife was telling him in an earpiece all this information. It wasn't like God granting him the information or whatever. But he like the point is he exposed these people so brutally in public settings, and they still had supporters. Like Peter Popoff still had a fortune. Uri Geller still had a lot of followers, and James Randi called it the unsinkable rubber duck. Like you smack it down underwater, and then it just comes back up. Um, and
Yeah.
so like I knew like yeah, we're not going to get rid of this. The question is how big is their sphere of influence going to be? Like how big is the grifters audience, the charlatans audience, and their believers? How big is that circle going to be? And right now it just feels like it's bigger than ever. And so that I think is what's depressing. And
Like, I just don't understand the appeal though, because to any normal person watching a debate like that, they would immediately come away with, okay, this Steve guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Any normal
mhm.
person would come to that very, very obvious conclusion. Do you think they just have pizzazz, or, I mean, what am I missing here?
I mean, I think at least when it's vaccines, it's just emotions. Like people are really emotionally attached, and they identify themselves with these beliefs. And so like they see their idol, who may be Steve Kirsch or whatever other anti-vaxxer they follow, getting brutally obliterated on stage by Dave and I, and they just get angry. They don't logically say like, "Oh shit, like that guy's clueless. He didn't know anything. Like, why am I following him?" They just get angry. I mean, there was a guy who came up and screamed at Dave at the end of that debate, just like screamed at Dave, threatening him. I think I told the story last time, but yeah, these people are just like they're not coming from a place of logic, and they're just personally attached to a lot of these ideas, and it's really hard to get them out of that. Like,
So this, you are aware that you are basically saying that you're going to be doing this for the rest of your days.
oh, I am well aware of that. Yes, yes, I am going to, because like I said, like how big is their sphere of influence going to be? And my whole like my reasonable goal, the goal so I don't like go crazy, is like just shrink that sphere of influence or limit its growth. Like if they just have like their dozens of devoted fans, then it's like okay, they can't do that much damage. But now that it's like millions of people who are sycophantically supporting like just the worst people in the world, it's like shit. Like we got a big job to do.
Yeah, yeah, we do. Especially now that we have what the Daily Show is calling butt COVID.
Oh, the cyclospora thing.
Yeah, explosive diarrhea, which I will say is one, absolutely horrible, and we should take the necessary precautions, and two, absolutely hilarious because explosive diarrhea is funny.
It's pretty funny. Yeah,
Hey Dan,
hey,
I
that's
actually wanted to
it's
give
a
a little
good
brief
segue
update on the
for
cyclospora, if
yeah,
you don't mind.
yeah, it's a good segue for Dr. Worm, who are you? I forget. Are you okay going by Dr. Worm? Is there something else we should call you?
Worm Talk is fine, Doctor Worm, anything like
Okay,
that.
okay.
Yeah, Worm Talk 94. Yeah, I wanted to give a little brief update on the cyclospora outbreak, and before I jump into that, I wanted to give a quick thought on the anti-vaxxer talking points kind of thing. I found recently, particularly for COVID, when there are people that are actually skeptical, but they've just heard so much like stuff in the news and they don't know what to think. I found a really good tactic to be. I know 3 people that died from COVID. Like they died in their 50s, and not like super healthy people, but not like people that should have died that young. I know 0 people that even had a bad interaction from the vaccine, and that kind of always breaks through. If they don't want to listen to the facts and figures, sometimes using personal anecdotes like that is really useful because everyone knows someone who had a bad interaction or a long COVID or something like that from the virus or died. I don't know anyone that knows anyone that died from the vaccine because it's
Mm-hmm.
like 1 in a million. So that type of information tends to be like, oh yeah, the data aligns with my personal observations in real life too. So that can be really powerful,
Mm-hmm.
and I've used that successfully a few times. But to talk about cyclospora, so I'm sure everyone has seen the news. Cyclospora is a protozoan parasite. It causes explosive diarrhea, and I believe the last case count was around 7,000 people in the United States. The biggest outbreak, I believe, is in Michigan right now, but there's been like outbreaks in Florida, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, some of the other. I think it's hit 35 states in total. Reports as of like yesterday are suggesting that at least 5 of the states, which are 5 of the states where the outbreaks are the biggest, like Michigan, the Midwest in general, the cyclospore outbreak seems to be linked to Taylor's Farm lettuce. I believe it's their iceberg lettuce to be precise. Their shredded lettuce, and this was used in places like Taco Bell and things like that, and is one of the leading contenders to the main source of the outbreak. However, this is only for the Midwest outbreak. The other outbreaks that are occurring, they might be unrelated or related. It hasn't been confirmed or denied yet, so that still needs to be updated. The way cyclospore pretty much works is it's a protozoan parasite that infects your gut. It makes you have a lot of diarrhea, and that's how it gets out of your system after it reproduces. After you pass it, it takes about a week to 2 weeks before it can actually become infectious again. So it's not considered person-to-person transmission for this parasite, so you don't have to worry about encountering someone else that had it. But if it gets onto food through like contaminated water, which is probably what happened in this current outbreak through the Taylor's Farm lettuce, they probably like washed their lettuce with some contaminated water, and then if you eat it after it's gone through the sporulation process, then you can get infected, and it can be pretty unpleasant. There are a few drugs that a doctor can prescribe you if you get tested for it and it comes back positive, and these can shorten the duration and the intensity of the symptoms. Untreated, this can go from anywhere from like 1 week to 2 months, so it's worth getting the drugs for it. Depending on the type of testing you're doing, whether it's PCR based or if it's done through microscope. Microscopes can have false positives. Sorry, my baby is making sounds.
I can hear. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. The microscope can have false negatives with it. So if you get one microscope test and it comes back negative, it's worthwhile getting a second one or even a third one. So that's something to keep in mind. And the main way to handle it is make sure to wash your produce. Big things of concern are things like lettuce, basil, cilantro, berries. Depends on every outbreak. And cooked food will kill the parasite. Washing doesn't necessarily kill it, but it can bring the parasite below. There's something called like an LD50 or an LI50, which is infectious dose, ID50.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
you need more than one parasite oftentimes to actually make the parasite take hold. So if you wash your food, you might just bring that threshold below the critical amount to actually get infected. So that's where the washing comes in. And freezing can do the same thing, but freezing isn't guaranteed to kill it either. So I feel like that's everything in a nutshell.
Nice.
For
Thanks.
the current outbreak.
Yeah, thanks for that. So you said there are some drugs that doctors can prescribe, but the treatment is mostly like supportive care and hydration, things like that.
Yeah, just take it easy kind of thing. A few drugs will limit its duration and its intensity, but until you get a positive test back, supportive care, it's pretty unpleasant from what I've been told. But
I imagine explosive diarrhea is never pleasant.
No.
Yeah. Fortunately, I have yet to have the norovirus, so I haven't had too bad of an experience personally.
Well, with a little baby, hope
coming.
that it doesn't come for you.
Oh, it's gonna. I've already accepted that. I catch every outbreak I seem to catch first. So
yeah, my daughter, when we had my daughter in 2021, and so everybody was still home, and at the time my wife, her job, she was able to work from home. So we had this schedule where it would be like, I'd go to work super early and come home early so that I could like take over so that she could have a work day. But then immediately, like we did that for like a year until my daughter went to daycare. But then immediately after she went to daycare, she got like everything.
Yeah, that's what I'm expecting.
Yeah.
But also some good news, because I think there's a lot of bad news going on right now. What's it called? The human guinea worm, also known as dracunculiasis, had less than 10 cases in 2025 and is near extinction. So that's a really good news to kind of help inspire people. That was really spearheaded by Jimmy Carter, a former president, and based on simple technologies and things, he's pretty much eradicated a disease that would leave people completely like immobile for months on end. So really good thing that's pretty much gone now. So
here's a question for you, Dr. Worm. How do we inspire the next generation to not be morons, but instead go into STEM?
There's always going to be idiots and morons and things like that. But I think the best way to do it is to make science not seem boring. Like that's kind of like the videos I make. I try to make entertaining for that reason, not because I think science isn't entertaining on its own right, but science can be dry until you get kind of into it. I remember what got me into science was I was an undergrad, I was working in a lab, but not super invested in it, and we had a speaker come to the lab, and afterwards there was a party held at the professor's house, and I remember like seeing the party, having a little bit of scotch myself, and just being like, wow, this is really fun. These people are just having beers and talking about like the coolest stuff on the planet. And that's the day that I decided, like, I think I could be a scientist. And like 15 years later, here I am, still a scientist. So it worked. So I think just showing that science isn't just like boring people in lab coats that don't know how to communicate very well, but it's actually like an interesting topic with full of interesting people, just with a lot of passion, and that you can really explore it in your own way and do it your own way and enjoy it your own way, and then learn about the shit you like. I think some authenticity, and I think doing these types of scientific outreach programs where it's really casual, low key, interesting. I think that's really good for that average person, and it kind of takes us out of our ivory towers and shows people like, oh, these aren't just pharma paid shills. These are people that care about other people that happen to work in certain industries that have profit incentives or don't, things like that. That would be my general take on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a related question.
Sure. Go ahead, Scott. You haven't talked yet.
So my uh, he's been, but
You're roboting.
Yeah.
You're roboting them.
Yeah, you're going in and out a little bit.
Oh, it's clear.
Yeah, it sounds like you're breaking up.
Yeah, sorry about that. If it doesn't fix itself, maybe try leaving and coming back.
Can I add something to that?
Sure.
Sure. Hi, I'm Bas from the Netherlands, and I run a medical education YouTube channel where I explain medical topics for the general public in Dutch, including how vaccine work and other medical stuff. And those videos sometimes attract people who believe in medical conspiracy theories. And with figures like Robert E. F. Kennedy Jr. now holding major influence over public health policy in the US, I'm wondering, how do we as scientists, educators, and communicators do a better job of countering medical misinformation in the long term?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it needs to be a multi-front battle, kind of. Like, we need to get kids more interested in science, yeah, and I don't know the best way to do that. But my approach, like the best way I know how to fight the current landscape of disinformation, is I think we need people who are willing and able to like talk to these people's faces, like talk to RFK Jr.'s face and just show that he doesn't know what he's talking about as much as possible. Because yeah, he's still going to have a lot of supporters, just like Steve Kirsch does, despite his ass whooping in public. But when a lot of people see that, when a lot of people see like, oh, this person like made this claim, and then it was shown to like have not read what they claimed, said what they say it said, or like we quote it and like we go through it together and it's like, oh, this doesn't actually say what you said, like, or oh, you have no idea what that term means, do you? Like, going through that, I think we need like good journalists or interviewers or just scientists who are willing to like go to these people and have those conversations very publicly, because I think there are enough people who would see something like that and think, man, you know, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, and like seeing it play out in real time, I think that can shift enough people to be like, at least, or shift at least enough people who might be like on the fence or like not too far gone to be like, okay, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Maybe we should listen to someone else. That's my like approach. That's why I took the approach that I did with Steve and Pierre. I was very intentional about it. And like, that's what I can do best. And that's what I think we need to see more of. But there are totally so many ways to do it. that we just need more communicators who are good at it, who are good at it in their own way, stepping up and doing it. Because like Dr. Worm said, an important part of this is making science entertaining. Because in the attention economy of the internet, if it's not entertaining, most people aren't going to want to watch it. And that's really hard to do. Like I try to do it with my YouTube channel videos. Like I try to add some entertaining elements to it, but it's hard. Like I'm not a comedian, I'm not an entertainer, and so I've had to like practice and learn and really try at it, and I don't think it hits always, and it's really difficult to do. So, but there are people who are just very good at it. Like, uh, um, who's the Milo Rossi, the guy who does debunking in pseudo archaeology world. I mean, he's like popped off. He's got millions of followers. His videos consistently get like a million views. He's very entertaining. He's good at it. He's got like great editors. He's got good like camera presence and or something that just like makes him entertaining to people and people watch him. And that's hard to have. It's hard to like gain and practice and apply. So yeah, we just need more people who are willing to do it. And the way it is now, like almost every science communicator that I know of, Milo is like an exception. He does this as a full-time job. Almost every other science communicator just does it as like a side gig. Like this is my side gig. The
That's the problem.
yeah.
That's a big problem is that we're doing it as a side gig, and that means we're always going to be the victim to Brandolini's law.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we
So much.
there's just so much misinformation that is peddled by people who do it like as a living. Like that's their whole thing. Their income depends on people watching them and believing them and then buying their supplements or whatever shit they're selling. Uh, like we are just like we come home, we're tired some days, and we just try to like put out something that we think is going to be useful. Um, and that seriously is most science communicators that I know of. Like Milo and Dave, I think are exceptions. But yeah, most people do not make enough money science communicating to live. It's just a hobby.
Yeah, and should science communication be taught as a part of every science degree?
Oh, I think
Or
I think it should at least be offered. Like in my graduate degree and even in my undergrad, there was nothing that was like, hey, this is how you talk to normal people about science. Like we had some training on like how to give a talk to a department, like to our own department in grad school. Even that was super limited, and it wasn't consistent. It was like it only lasted for like I think it was just phased out when I was getting there, but like uh, one person running like the graduate seminar speaking program, she would have the graduate students film themselves. Like they would get filmed giving their talk and then be forced to watch it back. And that the people who I know did that said it was like very helpful to realize like, oh God, I do that with my hands, or oh God, I sound like that, or oh no, I really am not explaining this well. Like that was really helpful for them, but it was phased out like by the time I was giving talks to my department. So I'm just saying that as an example of like, you know, there's no solid curriculum in a lot of graduate programs for talking even to your colleagues, let alone talking to the general public. Um, so I think it should at least be offered. There should be people in every uh, science department at every university able to like teach professionals or pre-professionals how to talk to normal people and explain their like these concepts to the general public in effective ways.
The last question that I have for you is along those same line before I have to leave. Um, and also keep doing what you're doing. Love your channel, love your videos. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, same to
But
you.
my final question to you is this: you said it should at least be offered, but the more extreme of that is, do you think it should be mandatory?
I would want it to be mandatory. I think that's a less attractive idea to like, you know, um, um, like like if I pitched it to a dean of a department at a university, they probably wouldn't be as receptive to it. But I would like for it to be mandatory. Yeah.
All right, because if I went to that idea and be like, hey, listen, I understand this may not be a popular idea, but look at what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, because I mean, the reality is like not everybody's just. Some people. I was talking to people at SciCon earlier, last month about this, where we were like, yeah, there are some scientists who are like, yeah, you probably shouldn't be the front person for this. Like, there are just awkward people who are not good at public speaking, and that's fine. But
Yeah, that's fine. It doesn't have to be for everybody.
yeah, but at least like taking a class in it and being aware of like how people do it and the importance of it because maybe they're not good at speaking themselves, but they can be a resource to people who do the speaking. Like that's important too. So, yeah, I would want it to be mandatory for sure
Thank
for
you
all
very much,
scientists.
man. I appreciate that. And like I said, continue on the good work. And I'll be a subscriber long into the future. So have a good one, and I'll talk to you later.
Likewise, Reds. Good to hear from you. Um, Snowblind is in the Discord chat. Would like to join the conversation. Sure, you can talk.
Hi, Dave. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. I just have a few minutes. So, like I mentioned, I'm a PhD student. I'm in a degree program that's kind of a few different fields. It's biochemistry, molecular biology, and microbiology.
Hmm.
And my PI is an immunologist, and so I
Nice.
study immune cells. Um, I first just wanted to say, like, I really appreciate the work that you and other science communicators do because even if we did have more practice communicating science in graduate school, um, we are just so busy.
Yeah.
And I even have a 2-year-old, so like
Oh, wow.
I wouldn't be able to fit, SciComm in with what I do. And also I'm in a conservative state, and
Hmm.
sometimes I worry about like putting a target on like my lab's back if I were to go out and push against some of the things that are going on with scientific funding and that sort of thing, because
Hmm.
most people aren't really aware of what's really going on at the NIH and things like that. So when we see people like you and even like anyone who's doing SciComm talking about these current problems, it really like helps us. Definitely makes us feel like there's someone in our corner. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I mean, cheers to you for having a 2-year-old in grad school, man. I can't imagine having kids in grad school. That would have been tough. Um, but yeah, it to your point, that's the whole other thing with this. Like, there's a reason that most like science faculty people at universities aren't more in like news spotlights. It's because they are super busy. They're expected to teach classes. They're expected to run their lab. They need to write grants. They have faculty duties to do. They have to get tenure, which involves a whole slew of to-do lists. They have their own personal lives. They a lot of them want to do experiments themselves still. They have to keep up with literature. They have to do peer reviews. They have to write their papers. They have so much to do. And then saying like, "Hey, can you do this extra thing where you debate these idiots or like correct some podcaster who said this thing?" It's like it is just another thing to drop on them that's not probably not going to get recognized or even like favored by their university because a lot of faculty who do like science communication, their faculty or their department heads and their like university would rather them not because it does,
Yeah,
like you say, bring negative attention to them. They
yeah,
do
it
get,
absolutely does.
yeah, they
Like
do. Hmm.
it's hard because, for example, like we basically had a victory last year because we only got a 10% cut from our state budget
Only,
for our
yeah,
entire university. And they were pushing for like a 30% cut. And so things like
wow,
that just make you like really leery about, speaking out against certain things.
Yeah.
So yeah, we really appreciate the work that you guys do too. And yeah, if I could go back, I mean, I'm so grateful I have a 2-year-old, but oh man, it has made things so much more difficult.
It's hard. Yeah. No, you like, it's okay to like focus on just what you need to do. And I know for me, it's hard to like see what's going on in the world and like not be doing something every week to try and like do what you can. But like it is okay for you to like take a step back and just do your research, take care of your family, take care of your 2-year-old. Like I've had to do that sometimes and like cut back on how much time I'm putting into YouTube just for my own sake. So like it's totally
like there
okay.
are hobbies that I've had for, since I was really little that I just haven't been able to get back into, for example. So yeah, adding like SciComm onto it is just not possible at this point, for me at least. But I will say, I just wanted to say one more thing before I get going here. The last caller did make a great point about how it is a skill to talk about some of these topics to lay people. Like I have a lot of family. I'm one of the only people in my entire family who's been to college, let alone I'm the first person to pursue a graduate degree. And so, yeah, trying to describe, hey, what are you researching? They ask me things like that. And, it's very specific. So it's like, how do you talk about some of these more nuanced topics in science in a digestible way without, losing them? It's a skill that I've been constantly working on. I also teach undergrads here. And so I do get a lot of practice teaching. But even still, like talking to, for example, like my aunt, uncle, that's a whole other thing. And so, yeah, I don't really know what to do. I wish there was more information on how to communicate these ideas to the public, because it is very challenging, especially when they're already kind of biased because of a lot of the things that they see online.
Yeah.
So
it's really hard.
I do got to get running, but
Yeah.
thank you so much, and good luck with everything.
Yeah, good luck with the baby. Good luck with your graduate work. Happy to hear from you. Yeah, it's tough having kids, man. A lot of stuff gets a lot busier. I have 2 for those who don't know, and yeah, it's I when we first had kids, we stopped doing a lot of stuff we liked doing, and it's overall a good change, but it's a change you have to kind of get used to, and you do end up mourning like your previous life after you have kids to a degree. But we are so happy that we have 2 kids. And now I'm getting back into hobbies. I think I'm having, a steady relationship with YouTube and producing science communication content that I'm happy with, and I'm reading a lot too. And for those who have watched my videos, my bookshelf has filled up over time because I've been reading more books, which makes me very happy. It's always my happy place to be reading a book. Anyway, does anyone else want to talk? I think we have some people who haven't talked that are in the chat.
I would.
Yeah, hey.
Hi, Linnea. I called in last time.
Yeah, I
Very
remember
much a
you.
layperson. Dr. Worm. I love that the nickname stuck. I think
Yeah.
it suits him.
Yeah, it does.
I think it's pretty good. But I am definitely a layperson. And you guys were talking about how to communicate with people. And all I have to say is just keep producing content. It's not, it's like, even, I know, I think last time we spoke and I made it sound like, oh, it was so easy for me to get out of my anti-vaxxer, rabbit hole mentality. But I mean, the truth is, like, it took like a decade for me to get out of that,
Yeah.
like fully.
Yeah.
So just keep doing it, because I think that there's this perception that like these, an anti-vaxxer, that you're going to change their mind. You're somehow going to miraculously change their mind, like with just one post or one video or one thing or whatever. It's like anything. Like there is something that you start questioning it. Like there's something that, you're like, oh, that seems weird. I need to maybe, investigate whether this is true or not. It's, yeah. So, I mean, I know that it probably feels like frustrating, but whatever, like you definitely are helping people. And I know you definitely help me personally.
That is always good to hear. And yeah, it as someone who also used to be a believer in conspiracy theories, it takes time. Like I'm well aware, and I think it's important for any science communicator to be well aware that you're probably not going to change someone's mind on the spot. I think it's
No.
pretty rare for that to happen. But what you'll do, ideally, is make them think. Like make them take a step back and think, oh crap, like that point in my head was like a really strong like fact in support of my beliefs, and now it's like, oh god, that strong support is like weakening.
Yeah.
And then they take a step back, and hopefully, over time they have more experiences like that, and then eventually they're like, you know what, it's not strong enough, I need to abandon it.
Exactly. And I think, okay, and this is what I know, like the first caller, they said, they're like, are we cooked? I think we're cooked, but I also think we might be bacon. Like I think there are a lot of people out there that that have realized that they have held on to very stupid, very untrue beliefs about science, about a lot of things. But a lot of people who I don't know, maybe there's ego, like that seems to be a commonality with people that hold this. And I know that I definitely had that too, like ego. It's like, oh no, I was wrong. Oh no. So there's probably more people than we realize that are just quietly have just kind of backed off.
Yeah.
And so like because it is ego, so it's like we have to factor into, like there's a lot of people that, like, I mean, I'm embarrassed, but I'll still shout it from the rooftops, like, hey, like I used to think stupid things too.
Yeah, it's
But a lot of people won't.
yeah, I mean, a lot of people have this fear of like they might call it like being canceled or whatever, but it's honestly like you could be the worst anti-vaxxer in the world. You could be someone who, like, I hate your guts right now. You could be like Steve Kirsch or William Mackis, like just scum of the earth to me. And then in a year, if you are that person right now, and in a year you have said like, I was totally wrong, I deeply regret it, and then you actually, like, through your actions are showing that too, in like all your content, like you've removed your old content, all your new content is like correcting yourself, and like you're trying to do the work to fix what you've done wrong. Like I would accept you. I'd be like, hey man, like that's a really brave thing you did. I really appreciate it. Like I wouldn't hate you anymore, but as long as you're like still spreading the bullshit, I'm gonna hate you. But
Well, and that's completely fair. And I think that there are people that we don't need to offer our niceties to, and be like, okay, this person has no intent of changing, or and is harming people. Like it's actively harming people, and yeah, they can just boo on them. Yeah. But I think too, it's like, even, I don't know, even like, I feel like sometimes there's these little glimmers. But it would be really nice. Here's my solution. Call me, okay. So what if we made coming out as being a former anti-vaxxer as being a profitable? What if that became very profitable? What if there was like a whole, like there could be energy drinks, there could be vitamin supplements, there could be podcasts you could go on to. It could be a super profitable thing to be an anti-vaxxer. Make it really flashy.
that would
I'm
be
just saying.
nice. That would be nice if
I
there
know,
was
I know
money.
it's unrealistic, but I just, okay, yeah. But thanks.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you calling in. Yeah, that would be nice because right now,
Ooh.
what's most profitable
Mhm.
is spreading bullshit and selling
Yep.
supplements. And if it was as profitable to be like science based or evidence based, uh, and or like admit that you believed wrong things in the past, like people would be doing that all over the place. But it's just
Ooh,
not super profitable right now. I
I love
heard
that.
Pepe make a
Yeah.
noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi.
Well,
Did you want to talk? Oh,
if it's okay, yeah.
yeah. Thanks, Linnea. I see you dropped out, but thank you for calling in. Pepe, go ahead.
Sure. Thanks for having this Q&A. I'm the person who wrote to you about the control experiment, an
Oh, yes.
email.
The virus, virus. Well, it's virus denial stuff, right? So,
So I think you sent me a response
yeah.
um, because I asked you, for the sake of the audience here, I asked you your thoughts around. And then I read your response, and then I sent you a follow-up email. And did you get a chance to read that? I know you're busy with the kids and all.
I think I responded to it. Let me see.
It was the second one. I haven't gotten another email from you since that. That was yesterday, so or day before yesterday, late. So I don't know that you would have had time even to
I responded this morning. Yeah, I said, yeah, we can discuss molecular genetics, and then I
Oh,
told you when I'll be going live. Um, yeah. So, for those who don't know, should I call you Pepe?
sure.
Pepe wrote to me asking my thoughts on someone who is doing experiments to demonstrate that viruses are not real. And I think that they're very poorly done and interpreted experiments. But Pepe wanted to talk to me about them, and so I'm happy to do that.
Okay. Um, for the sake of the audience, I, I think the purpose of the experiment was to demonstrate that CPE, cytopathic effect,
Mm-hmm.
and subsequent morphology, cellular morphology post so-called infection or CPE, were insufficient to confirm the presence of viruses. Would you agree with that attempt?
That's
Or
that's what they're that's what they're trying to demonstrate. Yes.
right, right. And so the claim is that the actual, in the case, they followed, it's called the ECDC protocol for SARS-CoV-2 viral cultivation. And in that, the conclusions they had based on just purely a negative control, right, which is an uninoculated culture,
Mm-hmm.
was
Yeah.
that they were able to reproduce cytopathic effect, principally due to what they claim was a reduction in fetal bovine serum from 10% to 2%.
Mm-hmm. That's their yeah. So basically, they're growing cells, right? And they're not
Yeah,
adding any virus or what
right.
what they would think we would say is virus to the cell cultures. They're just growing the cells, and all they're doing is they're reducing the amount of FBS or fetal bovine serum, which
Right.
is there in order to provide growth factors for the cells. So normally, in cell culture, we grow, depending on the cell line, cells in media that contains fetal bovine serum
Mhm.
at concentrations of like between 5 or 10% generally. And that allows the cells to actually, it tells the cells basically to divide in culture, because cells are out of a body. In a body, your cells need all sorts of different communication signals from other cell types to tell them when to grow, when not to grow, when to divide, when not to divide. And in the cell culture, the fetal bovine serum is constantly telling them to divide, because we as researchers want plenty of cells to do our experiments with.
Right.
So yeah, in this case, they are reducing the fetal bovine serum down to 2% and growing the cells for multiple days, because they were trying to emulate a paper by an Australian research group, which was trying to basically try and link the likelihood.
Well, it's in the protocol, right? I mean, it's fine. It's part of the protocol to improve infectivity when you do inoculate, so that the FBS doesn't prevent viral infection. So
Right.
you drop it. I think you would agree. You drop it normally to 2% or 1% or something like that for a period.
Yes, but not every protocol has you growing the cells in low FBS for multiple days.
Okay.
In this particular paper that they were trying to emulate, the researchers were growing cells in low FBS for multiple days to try and, the purpose was to try and link.
5 days, I think. 4 to 5 days, yeah.
Yes. And the purpose was to try and have some kind of correlate between the likelihood of pulling viable virus from a certain sample taken from a sick patient who was confirmed to have SARS-CoV-2. So basically they're trying to, someone tests positive, they take the cycle threshold number, which the higher, it's the number in PCR where the higher the number, the less signal you had. And they're trying to correlate like that cycle threshold number with whether or not they're pulling out viable virus. So they're like, okay, like if we get above 30, do we have a like 50% chance of pulling viable virus from the sample? Like, questions like that is what those researchers were trying to answer. Right. So that's the basis for these experiments that this person is doing to try and show that he's trying to, his ultimate goal is to show that viruses don't exist. That's what he's trying to do.
Yeah. So I think what the argument is that we would not expect Vero E6 cells to survive 4 days in 2%.
So,
because what he showed was that they were dying, right? So that was his concern, is that, okay, we've reduced this to 2%. Now I'm seeing cells either not continue to reproduce or actually dying. And then he goes on to capture the morphology.
Yeah, so that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to show cells that are basically like not, they're taking up all their energy in the cell culture, and they're not dividing, and you're not passaging them during this time. And then towards the end of that 5-day period, they start to detach from the bottom of the cell culture flask, and they start to instead of divide, they just die off. But what they show basically is just what researchers already know happens towards the end of that culture period when growing cells in low FBS. So what the researchers did in the paper that this person doing the experiments did not do is they were looking for very specific CPE, and also they were combining that with PCR data. So it wasn't just, we never just see cytopathic effects and say that's a virus. We always have to use other methods to confirm that there's like what is causing those cytopathic effects. because sometimes cytopathic effects can be very specific to a certain virus, or they can also be generic. But the methods are always combined with something else to show, like, yes, a virus is causing this. And so
Okay.
that's the big problem with his experiment, is that regardless of what he thinks how similar he thinks the CPE he saw is to what the researchers saw, it's not really showing the point. It's not really showing what he wants it to, which is that which he would have to do is show that he would have to explain away the PCR results, which I have found that virus deniers just cannot do.
Yeah, he didn't do in this experiment any genetic testing, right? So it was just a reduction in FBS and a check for CPE, and then a microscopic review. I think it was like microscopy of the cells and what they look like. And the two affirmations that come from the paper were that, yes, CPE did happen regardless of inoculum, and secondarily that the morphology was relatively consistent with that which would be expected from some viral contamination and death. But he didn't address any genetic component in this particular experiment. So do we get from this that this would be expected, what he saw would be expected from Vero E6, and that because it is expected to happen after 4 days of 2%, that you don't think it's surprising, the results that he got? Is that?
No, I don't think it's surprising. The authors in the Australian paper that they're trying to emulate, those authors say that towards the end of their experiment, like around day 4, they were seeing cells detach. And so it wasn't surprising, but they were still able to at least qualitatively say that they were seeing CPE distinct from that kind of natural cell death after staying in the same media for so long without dividing.
They were seeing CPE.
Okay. And linking it to PCR results. Yeah.
Okay. I went through the ECDC protocol, but I don't know if I went through the other papers, so I'll take a look at that. Okay. So then at the end of the day, what we're arguing anyways is that you can't use a single line of evidence as confirmatory, either CPE or morphology, right? That
That's
you
right.
need additional. And I gave you what my amateurish kind of view of the lines of evidence, confirmatory lines of evidence. Did that seem correct to you, or was that?
Yeah, I think you listed. Yeah, I mean, these lines of evidence are what we would normally do. Like you said, isolation, filtering, and culturing, infectivity testing with CPE, plaque assays, plaque forming units, and TCID50, and so on. Neutralizing assays, genome sequencing, protein sequencing. Yeah.
Right. And in cases where we have some unknown kind of pathogen, that we might have to do full genomic sequencing and full proteomics, right, to just figure out what the heck's going on. Right.
That is an
so then
yeah, that's ideal to have a full genome and a full picture of like what the proteins are. Yeah.
Yeah, and presumably if you've done good characterization and you have good primers and that kind of thing, that you wouldn't necessarily need to do that in just regular diagnostic testing day to day, right? That would be a special case where you're discovering something new.
Right.
So okay, so then if we're okay with that, then I listed underneath that some concerns about the genetics in general. And that's, I think, where the more productive discussion happens instead of the previous thing, right?
Right.
Because at the
Okay.
end of the day, that, in your opinion, that is what makes or breaks presence or absence, so to speak, right?
Yeah, I think the list is a fair list. Yeah. And your concerns, yeah, I see that you listed those.
Yeah,
I don't know the names of the people that you listed in one of the
those
bullet
are
points,
one
but
of them. Barry Scheck is an attorney that handled the O.J. Simpson case. Remember that whole
okay.
deal?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so during that, I don't know if you know, but briefly he just came across the fact that genetic testing in criminal law was a mess, right? And he started a foundation to go address that. That's why I mentioned him there.
Okay. Well, I see you have. We could just take them in order if you want. Part A,
Yeah.
genesis of the RNA in question.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so I
yeah.
think this comes back to, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask you to uh,
Explain.
like explain what you mean by like what is your concern with that?
So this comes back to the famous isolation issue that always comes up in discussions. Did you isolate? No, you didn't isolate. Yes, we did isolate. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So this comes back to that what we do, and by the way, I think that is largely a vernacular semantic problem of communication. Just coming back to the discussion you guys were having earlier,
Mm-hmm.
I think this is where both parties fail for good reasons or bad reasons or no reasons to really think about what they're saying. So isolation in our case is we're filtering, right, and for things less than, let's say, 200 or 150 nanometers, and we're saying, this is as close as we can get to where a virus lives.
Mm-hmm.
But there could be, and I think we would admit all that there are other things in there, possibly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So then that's the question of, that becomes the issue of genesis for the RNA. Is that, are we really looking at,
Mm-hmm.
what RNA are we really looking at? That I think is
Yeah.
the gist of the concern, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand. I think I understand where you're coming from there. So, in that example, let's say we like have a biological sample from a person, and then we filter it and isolate everything that's smaller than like put it through a 2 micron filter, which we know takes out all of the eukaryotic cells, all of the bacterial cells, things like that, so that we're just left with things small enough to be a virus or other similar sized particles. We know that
Yeah.
human cells produce things like exosomes, which are very tiny, basically like
Yeah.
I want to say vesicles, but not everyone knows what a vesicle is. It's just like a tiny. It's like if you pinch off a little bit of a bubble, like you take a bubble and just pinch a little bit of it off. That's kind of like what the cell membrane does. It like buds off these little tiny containers that can have cell contents in them, and in the body they're used for things like cell to cell communication. Those can be also there. So how do we know that the RNA isn't coming from that, and
Right.
we're not calling that a virus? Well, we know that because we can sequence the RNA, and we know that RNA in a eukaryotic cell has to come from DNA, right? All of the RNA in within a cell, one of our cells at least, comes from DNA. It has to be transcribed. There's machinery that reads the DNA and then uses that information to produce RNA. So if we're looking at if we're looking at RNA in an exosome that came from a human cell, then we should be able to trace that that RNA sequence back to the DNA in the human cell that it came from. But with viruses, we can't do that unless it's a DNA virus that's inserted itself into the genome. But with RNA viruses that don't do that, we don't see that. Right? We don't see SARS-CoV-2 RNA sequences encoded in human genomes. So we can say this is not a human source. It didn't come from that cell naturally. So where did it come from? And you follow the lines of evidence and you can only conclude that it came from a replicating particle that was not part of the cell previously, not involved in the cell previously. So so that's how we know that when we sequence things, how we know that it's not coming from the human cell. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Is what we're saying is that you ground up a bunch of glass, and in the middle of the mixture, you find a piece of copper, and you're saying, well, this definitely isn't what we ground up. Doesn't belong here. So where did this come from, right?
Yeah.
So I think I can understand that. So if the argument is that we have some unique biology that is non-human, right? Then the question goes to like number 2, maybe. And I know this is a contentious topic, is do we really have confidence in what we are actually reading, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the second one, right?
Yeah. So the way sequencing works, there are specific chemistries to it where we can be really confident that what we're like the sequence that we're getting out of it is the sequence that is being read. And nowadays there's multiple ways to sequence. You can sequence chemically, or you can sequence with a nanopore, which is a different mechanism.
Sure.
Nanopores use
Ions.
ionic flow.
Ion current.
Yeah, ionic
Right.
flow that you measure through a pore. And
Right.
yeah, so you're able to differentiate the different sizes of base pairs, as the strand of DNA or RNA flows through the pore, which is
Sure.
different from Sanger sequencing, which Sanger sequencing is the same as next-gen sequencing, just
Sure.
next-gen sequencing is it upscaled. So you can do both those things and get the same answers as to what you're measuring. And then you can do experiments that depend on those results, right? You can look at a sequence and then you can design a PCR to target a little portion of that sequence. And the way complementary base pairing works, it has to be really exact, because if the primers aren't exact, they won't bind and you won't
Right.
get a PCR product. So you can do an experiment that says, okay, I have this sequencing data. Let me try to PCR this part because I want to like clone it or something. If you do that PCR and it works, then you know that your sequence at least your primers sequences were correct. And then you can do a sequencing reaction on the PCR product to see if the in-between was also the same as what you originally sequenced. And
Yeah.
I don't know of examples. I have never heard of anybody being like, oh, we sequenced this and we were really confident about the sequence, but then we did these PCR experiments and it didn't match up. I don't hear about that. The only like problems I've ever heard with sequencing is the quality of DNA. Like if you don't get quality DNA, you don't get confident sequencing data, then there can be uncertainty there, which is why like in forensics cases, sometimes DNA is too degraded or there's not enough of it, and they'll say like we have a partial profile of the suspect, or we have not enough DNA to form a confident profile of the suspect. So, things like that can happen. But
Okay.
if you have enough DNA or enough genetic material, it's really easy these days to get really quality sequence data. And
Okay, so that's how you would explain that the discrepancies we've had, like these 23andMe tests where people send in samples of their dog's DNA and they get back that the dog is whatever, or
okay,
the discrepancies we've had, in the Barry Scheck case where he's found, um, you know, major test labs run the same experiments and find differing results. I think very poor statistical correlation amongst the labs themselves. You would argue, Dan, that it's probably due to the sample quality. Is that what
well,
I'm hearing? Or
I'm not sure exactly what's going on in the cases you're referencing. I'm not familiar with them.
yeah.
But it also can depend on what the labs actually do. So
Mm,
sometimes forensics labs they don't necessarily sequence everything. Other
right.
sometimes they will look at certain just like certain parts of the genome. They'll do something called RFLP, which is restriction fragment length polymorphism,
Mhm,
and that it just looks at the different sizes. Like if you use an enzyme called a restriction enzyme to cut up
mhm,
DNA, it's going to
mhm,
it's going to get cut up into specific sized pieces. And those
mhm.
specific sized pieces can be different lengths depending on the person because everyone's genome is slightly different. So that's a technique that a lot of forensics labs can use. That's not
Mhm,
sequencing. That's just it's RFLP. It's different. So it depends
mhm.
on what technique
Oh,
the
I see.
forensics lab might have used that might lend some uncertainty to whatever case. But I do know that the Innocence Project, their whole thing is exonerating
Right,
innocent people with mostly
right.
DNA evidence. And uh, I actually haven't looked into what exactly they do, how much of what they do is sequencing, but you can, if you have quality samples and you
Mhm.
do you do something like sequencing, you can be really confident about your results.
And you would say, do you know if like the 23andMe or Ancestry.com, do they do sequencing? Because they've had a
No,
mess with it.
they don't. They do. I forget exactly what they call it, but they basically just look at certain parts of the genome. Like they'll look at the part of the genome where like the gene for Huntington's disease is, and they'll say like yes or no, do you have it? They'll look
Mhm,
for like the BRCA, the breast cancer genes. They'll look at those and say like, do you have the BRCA genes that can increase your chance for breast cancer? They'll do things like that to look at they'll look at certain parts of the genome and those will be your results. Um,
They have like some of these places will connect you to relatives. Like they say
yeah.
this person might be a relative or something. So are they looking for, you're saying they're not really sequencing, they're just looking for some kind of marker that says, oh, you were born in the Philippines or something like
So
that.
my understanding is they're sequencing, but they're not doing like the full of like an analysis of your full genome. They're only specifically analyzing certain parts that will tell them what alleles you have that are relevant to certain diseases. And with determining relatives, I'm not super familiar on the science of what they do to determine that. But I don't know how accurate that would be or what the scientific consensus around the accuracy of those
Okay.
interpretations would be, but they are
Okay.
looking at specific characteristics of your genome and interpreting them in ways that they say, oh, this person is related to you in some distant or close way.
Okay.
Obviously, we can tell pretty confidently, like, you know, who someone's father is, or who someone's children are, things like that. We can tell, like, siblings. How they determine, like, seventh cousin, I'm not I don't I'm not familiar with the science of that, so I can't really speak to
Okay.
its accuracy. But we
Okay.
can be really confident in using certain techniques. We can be really confident in certain familial relationships.
Okay. Okay. And then number 3C should be pretty easy. There's been a discussion about assembly. And
Oh, yeah,
the
okay.
issue has been that, assembly is really a fictional event in terms of real biological material. And so the question here is, other than not to argue the precision or accuracy of assembly, but to consider, does nanopore then sidestep all of that, in your opinion?
It
Because
does.
there's essentially no assembly.
It does, yeah, it does. Yeah, so the issue here that I hear virus deniers talking about, the way next gen sequencing works is basically it chops the genome up into tiny pieces, and within your sample, you're not just dealing with one singular genome. I mean, it's one genome in the sense that it's one species in this example, but it's like there's multiple copies of the genome, right? There's multiple cells, multiple different copies. So you're chopping all these genomes up into little tiny pieces, and then
Yeah.
a chemical reaction, which basically how it
Yeah,
works
I think I'm
is,
familiar with the assembly process.
yeah, I
And,
just want to explain for the audience like what we're talking about.
oh,
Basically how it works is like one piece from that chopping up is attached to the bottom of a well, and you have a plate that has like hundreds of wells on it. And then a chemical reaction is going to add a base to that single strand that is a piece that you've chopped up. And that can only be one base. It can only be one base because complementary base pairing means A always binds with T and C always binds with G, unless it's RNA where you substitute T with U. But same story. Complementary base pairing is very specific. And that chemical reaction is going to produce a fluorescent signal, which a camera will take a picture of. And so you have hundreds of wells, all where these little pieces of DNA are all getting bases added to them, and a camera is taking pictures of each fluorescent signal after a piece is added, or after a base is added. And then it compiles all of it into strings of letters, right? And these pieces of DNA, again, they're all chopped up. So they could be like, you could have like a segment here, and this segment might be like this, where this one ends, this one like continues the story basically. I've used the analogy before where it's like if you take a book and you chop it up into like, I don't know, like 12 word chunks, and then try to reassemble the book. You're like, the longer the chunks are, you're only going to get one answer where everything fits together. That's ultimately what I'm trying to go towards here, is this idea that, yeah, you've chopped up the genome and you've sequenced it, but the pieces only fit together one way that makes sense. Like if you're reading Game of Thrones and there's only one way Varys' speech about how people perceive power is going to fit together to make something that makes sense. And so that's kind of like what you're doing when you reassemble the genome that way. It used to be done by hand. Sanger sequencing was done like, it used to take like someone's whole PhD just to sequence like a plasmid, like a few thousand bases. Now it's just automated. Like you would have to manually put those pieces back together in a way that makes sense to read a whole thing. But now a computer can do it for you and just does what a human would do faster, basically. So all this is to say that, yeah, we can be really confident that next-gen sequencing works, because at the end of the day, there is one right way to read the genome. There's only one way to put the pieces of a puzzle together so that it all fits to form a picture. But that argument that virus deniers have a problem with that somehow is, as you say, it is completely sidestepped with nanopore sequencing, because you can get one continuous read of a nucleic acid sequence that is up to like, I mean, I've seen reads that are thousands of base pairs long. I think I've seen data where they can sequence like up to 20,000 base pairs in a single like continuous read of one nucleic acid molecule going through a nanopore. So
From what I've heard, it's much larger than that, Dan. It's
larger than tens of
hundred.
thousands.
It depends on the reliability, because you have these duplicate sections that become very difficult for nanopore, but hundreds of thousands, I think they've done.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it doesn't surprise me. It's been a while since I read about nanopore sequencing, and I know that the technology advanced very quickly, because I remember, what year was it? It was like 2013, 2014. I did a summer rotation in a lab that was trying to get nanopore sequencing going, and they were still trying to tackle like basic problems as to like how to stop the DNA from getting tangled before it goes through the nanopore, or how to keep it from tangling while it goes through the nanopore, like things like that. They were trying to tackle, and now nanopore sequencing is used and is really common. So the technology's advanced quickly, but yes, it does sidestep that contention that virus deniers have with next gen sequencing.
okay, and then the last issue is one that's been described by the community as turtles all the way down. I don't know if you've heard that
Okay.
description, but it's regarding the provenance of the corpus that's used as a mapping for viral genomes.
Okay.
And the issue is not whether it exists and whether it is used. The issue is how this thing came to be in its origins and the traceability of that, as opposed to maybe an artificially constructed database for whatever reasons, right? So that's the provenance issue. When we say, look, we've got a sequence here and it matches according to our database, and there are 5 or so, I don't know, you know better than I do how many there are. It matches a coronavirus or it matches a hantavirus. The argument here is nobody has ever actually really walked this through to the origins to say we've actually identified the original sequence and it's mapped through, right? That's the provenance issue.
Yeah. I get that, and it's just not true. Like, we build the databases empirically, and we go by like it's internally checking itself all the time, right? Because if you get a sequence that matches what you would expect a coronavirus to look like, and it's something completely different, like it looks like a coronavirus but acts like a flavivirus, like that wouldn't make any sense. That would kind of mean the system is not working in a way that is consistent and the model is broken somehow. But that doesn't happen, right? We don't see that happening. We get the sequence and then we characterize it, and we see that, yep, the sequence produces these proteins that we can predict based on the sequence, and they look like proteins that belong to a coronavirus. They have the same domains and segments that we would expect. They are the same size that we would expect. They lead to the same morphology that we would expect. There are lots of different ways to not just stop at, oh, it looks like a coronavirus, therefore that's what we're going to call it. There's more characterization that is done to make sure that that's the case, right? Or at least those experiments would reveal something different when they're done. And it all started just with empirically sequencing, like we not knowing what you're going to find going in, and saying like, oh, okay, this sequence is this, and this sequence is this, and doing that over and over again with lots of different things, and saying, hey, these sequences kind of cluster together and they all kind of look similar. Let's call that a family of this species of virus. And yeah, it evolves over time. There are changes that can happen to family trees, but it's never like, oh, we thought we were way over in this branch initially, and instead it looks like something completely different. Like that just doesn't happen. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I think that's what my goal here is kind of along the lines of what your team, you and the people who are here discussion previously, is to close the gap, because people make life decisions, significant life decisions on whether or not to vaccinate their child, whether or not to vaccinate their grandparents or whatever. And I see a stall in the camps, right? It's almost as if people are entrenched. And I think, if it's okay by you, I think through your medium and other mediums that I'm trying to work through, is to try to get these answers out as clearly as possible, so that people can make informed decisions, right? And I might come back and, I don't know, bother you again on some details here, just to flush these out, and so that we don't get entrenchment. We get more data explaining the issues that come up, right? I don't know if I'm explaining myself correctly, but trying to make sure that people are speaking the same language. That's where I'm going.
Yeah,
with this whole thing.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, I just think, I think it's important to have the expectation, though, that there will still be people like, the person who's doing these experiments you're talking about. I do not expect them to change their mind anytime soon. I don't expect people like them to disappear. Right? Even if he changes his mind eventually, there's going to be people like him who are entrenched. And we have to, you can reach for the moon, but you have to have the expectation that you're not gonna do it.
Well, I coming back to motivation, there may be people who are financially motivated in these things, right? And by the way, I could argue that on both sides. But the majority of the people, I don't believe, are, at least on the no virus community, are financially motivated. Right? They're just concerned because of past histories in the behavior of, I don't want to get macro global here, but the way our government behaves and the way our medical system sometimes behaves, and the whole cigarette thing, it comes back to that skepticism that people have, right? so that I think if you're financially motivated, then that's what it is. But if the majority aren't and they're willing to listen to both sides of the equation, the gap is so wide. This is like flat Earth versus not flat Earth, right? It's
Yeah.
like that's not a minor mistake in a geometry equation. That's like total non-communication, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I see the virus issue as the same way, is that we have people not talking to each other correctly. And yeah, there are some cases that, people are profiting from it, but getting the right information out should limit the audiences against, the truth. So whatever is the case, and I'm not arguing any case, I'm arguing the gap shouldn't exist, right? That's my argument, is that this is too big of a gap, like the flat earth argument is too big of a gap.
Yeah, it's a big gap. And there are definitely people in the virus denier, leaders in the virus denier community who are financially motivated. People like Andrew Kaufman and Tom Cowan, they sell supplements and sell courses and seminars to people. We calculated before that in his one seminar they made thousands of dollars just from one like 2 hour seminar. Like they are very financially motivated. But yeah, you're right. The average person who believes them is not, but they're motivated by other things, which can include like, just the fact that it can be health is scary. It's scary, the idea that a virus could take you from being healthy one day to being not healthy the next. And it can be comforting to substitute that with a reality where viruses don't exist and I just have to take supplements and live a healthy lifestyle and I'll be fine. Like that's an attractive belief to a lot of people, one that they won't want to let go of easily because it's comforting to them and they emotionally identify with it, right? So there's a lot going into like what builds these beliefs in people. It's not just that, but I think the point is like they'll always exist, and you're right. We have to be willing to talk to them and communicate better. And I've made some videos on my channel talking about virus deniers and going through what they present and why it's incorrect. I had a debate once with a virus denier. Actually, I think a few on this channel at this point. But yeah, like it's somewhere that where communication can be better, but we're not gonna get rid of the problem. I don't think.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks so much for
Yeah, no problem.
walking through this with me. Thanks.
Yeah, feel free to reach out over email again.
I will. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thanks for calling. And yeah, for people in the chat, I know I said the wrong date in my last live stream. I said the 18th. I must have been looking at the Saturday instead of the Friday. I can't do these on Saturdays. So I'm sorry. I said the wrong date. Know that it'll always be on a Friday if I do these, unless I say otherwise, in which case I'll announce in advance. But Fridays are like the days that I can do these because I take days off in the summer, and that's literally the only reason I can do this is my kids are at daycare and I can do this. And okay, I see someone on Discord said we need a live ping. I can try to figure out how to do that and do that next time. I'm sorry. Anyway, Jay is also in the chat on Discord. Did you want to speak?
Y- Yeah, sure. Am I on?
Yeah. Hey,
Hey, it's me again. Hey, Dan.
how you doing?
Um, I'm doing all right. How have you been?
Been hanging in there. I said earlier in the stream my HVAC died during the last heat wave. That's one of the reasons I decided to cut my hair because it was way too hot.
Oh, darn. I'm
But we're
sorry. What broke?
oh the HVAC was like 2 years past its warranty, and apparently all the refrigerant had leaked out of it, and so it
Oh,
wasn't
yeah, that
cooling.
sucks. Have you had any people look at it yet?
Oh, we got it replaced already, but
Oh, okay, because yeah, when you have a refrigerant leak, that's tough to spot. And if it's in like the condenser outside, you have to pretty much just replace the condenser. But I used to work on air conditioning with my
oh,
dad.
okay.
Um, yeah, that sucks. I'm sorry. Well, I mean,
It's
I
okay.
I turned my AC down in my apartment to like to keep the energy low, and sometimes I just suffer through it just to just to keep the bill down. But yeah, I kind of joined a little bit late. I like everybody else. I thought you were doing it tomorrow, so
I'm
but
sorry.
I was taking a break from work, so I just happened to jump on. Yeah, towards the end of that last conversation, y'all were like talking about sort of like public perception about viruses and such, and people kind of denying it. I find it really odd because like, well, not really odd, but me, I'm very interested in aviation, for instance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I used to be like deathly afraid of getting on a plane. Like I remember like the first time I went to go and take a vacation, like I was like crazy nervous, like panic attacking, just the thought of getting on the plane. I was just like, there's no way I can do this. I can't do this, but I managed to pull through. Um, and in that time, I've become I was wondering like why is this a thing? Why do we do this? Why, it feels like so many things can go wrong and then everybody just dies. Like, how is this a thing? How does it keep going? And so I learned about it and I kept learning about it. And then I learned so much about it that even I started flying a
Mm-hmm.
plane, not a big plane, but small planes occasionally. And it's like now that I've like kind of conquered that fear and got all this knowledge, I can look back and be like, oh, that's why. That's why it's a thing. Even as like crazy against every sort of like instinct in me that says this should not be a thing, it makes sense why it's a thing because it
Mm-hmm.
is extremely safe, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Commercial airliner accidents are very sparse. I mean, they happen, but you could look at the adverse events from vaccines and such, and you can make just as much of an argument like, look, these things are really safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely there's the instinct that you know it doesn't feel right to inject yourself with a thing, but it feels weird, but it makes sense when you understand it.
Yeah.
um
Can I say I'm like really glad you're saying this because something about me that I don't think I've talked about online is I had a like crippling fear of flying. Um,
hmm
and it wasn't my whole life. It kind of just emerged like when I was in college. I was just like
yep.
taking a trip out to the West Coast one time, and on the way back, like on the way there, I was kind of fine. On the way back, it was literally like white knuckle, eyes closed, entire flight. and then and then I didn't fly for years, and then um, I started dating my now wife, and we had to travel to see her family, and we wanted to go on trips, and so I went, but oh my god, it was like the night before a flight, I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, and the day of, again, it would be like, no matter how long the flight was, white knuckle, eyes closed, entire time. Just I was terrified, and I wanted to live my life. I wanted to do things with my wife where we go places. And so I like went to therapy about it, and
Wow.
what really helped was long story short, one of the things that really helped was learning about it, like learning about the
Yep.
process of flying, and because I knew like this is not rational. I know it's safe, but my body every time is just doing this crazy anxiety thing that I can't like get control of. But
Yeah, well, a funny story for me was like a couple years back, I went to visit my brother, and again, West Coast like you,
mhm,
and that was like 3 years ago, and we were coming into California, and it was very windy, like unusually windy, like
mhm,
crazy windy, like unlike before. Even my brother texted me like it's never been like this windy since I've lived here. And like as we were coming into land, it was just complete and utter pucker factor for me. Like, oh my God, this that we're gonna crash because the plane was just going nuts all over the place.
wow,
And so they had to do a go around. They
oh,
couldn't land at first because the wind was just
mhm,
so much. And the pilot person got on the speaker and it's like, yeah, we're experiencing a bit of wind shear. We're gonna have to come back around and do another landing. And I'm freaking out. Like, I just want to get on the ground. This is nutso.
yeah,
And there's this lady who sat behind me who like helped me out so much because she was talking with her friend. She's like, oh, I've been on some planes where it was put together with duct tape, and we managed to get down just fine. I'm like, all right, lady. I wasn't talking to her, but I was like, all right, lady, I'm just taking everything you're saying and just I'm gonna rest my laurels on what you say. And
mhm,
of course, we got down and it was fine. Come to find out later on, when I became more knowledgeable, wind shear is one of the more dangerous parts of what they call turbulence. You
mm,
know, it's I mean it's not the worst thing, but it can be dangerous because it can cause a plane to like lose a bit of lift just suddenly, like if it gets like a downdraft or
mhm,
something.
mhm,
But again, like pilot people are very well trained in this. This is all very
yeah,
natural to
yeah.
them. Yeah. So I mean, did you ever like, I don't know, get into flight simulators or anything like that?
No, but so it's interesting. Like learning about it really helped, but what really like helped me overcome the fear was exposure, and not necessarily getting into a simulator, which is one thing my therapist and I had talked about. Uh,
Hmm.
because basically he broke it down. I'm really thankful because he recognized in me like these affirmations of like, oh, start counting things in the room, and like what are those kinds of techniques people use to calm themselves, like those weren't working for me. He recognized that and was
Yeah.
like, okay, let's try immersion, let's try exposing you to this thing until it's not scary anymore. And so like if a 10 is going on a plane, what's a 5? Can we start there? And so there were things that I did, like I would watch YouTube videos. For some reason, people like to film their flights. It'll be like a
Hmm.
5 hour flight to Miami or something, and they'll just like prop their camera up against the window and just film the entire thing and post it on YouTube. I don't know why they do it, but I'm really thankful because I would do things like, if I had um, if I was if I had some hours where I was working or something, I would put a video on and I would like pay half attention to it. But every time I looked over it, I'd be like, "Oh, they're flying. They're fine. Okay, back to what I'm doing. Oh, they're flying. They're fine." Um, and another thing I would do is I would look at flightradar24.com,
Yeah. Hmm.
and uh, I would do things like, well, just looking at the map and seeing all the planes in the air at one time is pretty mind blowing. But then I would also like I would find the specific like flight route I would be going on in a few months, and I'd like find a plane that's doing it, and I'd just like click on it and watch it go on the radar. Be like, okay, it's in the air. They're fine. They're okay. I'll be okay too. And then and then I would also like zoom into busy airports, and it's crazy. Like
Hmm.
at a busy airport, it's like you can see planes approaching and then circling and then landing like one after the other. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it,
It's a really interesting system how they make that happen.
yeah, and so it's like, okay, I'm watching these planes, like that one's landing safely, that one's landing safely, that one's landing safely, and I would just like expose myself to it over and over again, be like, okay, I can do this. And then eventually, over the years, I got a much better handle on it. Like, I don't love flying
Good.
now, but
Mhm.
like we took a trip with my in-laws to London and other cities in Europe earlier this year,
Mhm.
and I did fine. Like I didn't
Good.
I wasn't excited about it, but like I was on the plane like doing normal things, and which is great because my wife would have been really it would have not been a good situation for her to be like totally alone with the kids while I'm out of commission, just like having a panic attack for that long of a flight. But yeah, it's been like that for a few years now, where I can do these flights and not like
Good.
totally collapse. But
That's good.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I'm not sure where you were going with this, but I think about it. I try to apply that to like, yeah, people who are afraid of vaccines. Like
Right. Mhm.
learning about it helps, but like, how do you expose people to it, right? Like, how do you
Well,
yeah.
the sort of thing that I was going after is I'm surprised that people don't take the same sort of like skeptical mentality to airplanes and such. I mean, people, from what I gather about people, even people who are afraid of it, like, they're not like constantly bringing up, like syllabuses from flight schools and saying, look, they didn't even train to do this. I don't see that happening, but it happens with vaccines. And I can
Mm-hmm.
understand, and it matters. The difference is that people are sort of, mm, you know, told that they need to get vaccines. No, everybody can make a decision to not make a flight. So I can give it that much. I
Mm-hmm.
understand that difference. But with airplanes, it's like you're putting your trust into the two pilots. Or it should be two pilots if it's a commercial flight, to get you there safely. You don't know all the technicalities of what they do or what they know or what they've practiced. For me, I find the disconnect to be kind of odd between the two disciplines. Because when I think of vaccines, I think of all the scientist people who work and who study and research, kind of like, to me, they're kind of like pilots. Like I mean, I'm a little more knowledgeable now since I've been studying it, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know all the particulars about what kind of, nanoparticle, I don't know all the particulars,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm putting trust that, hey, I know in aviation, these pilots who fly people, they do it. They're not, they don't just make people pilots. Like, you have to work really hard,
Mm-hmm.
like to an obsessive degree. And these are not people who take their jobs lightly.
Yeah.
If they took it lightly, they wouldn't be there. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, that occasionally, sometimes, yeah, it does happen where somebody gets through who's just not as, but it's a rare instance that such a thing happens. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, to me, like I said, I'm sometimes I find it odd how there's sort of a, like, okay, for vaccine things, people are, wanting to litigate every single tiny detail of everything, but oh, pilots, cool, they're fine, they know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the same, and then you can apply like the same concepts to vaccines, where it's like, hey, pediatricians, they vaccinate their own kids, like they put their own kids through the same vaccine schedules that they're giving out to their patients, and that's not coming from nothing. Like they're the pilots in that analogy, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's like I can open Flight Radar 24 and physically see planes flying around, and I can go to YouTube videos and watch people filming their flights, and I can do flight simulators and all this stuff. But for vaccines, I guess, like, what do you do? I guess you could find, there are probably videos of people like filming themselves getting vaccines, or things like that on YouTube.
I
You can look at
I think. Oh, I'm sorry, I was cutting you off.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, you can look at numbers, like this many billion people are getting vaccinated every year, whatever. But that's like a number. I don't know if that has the same effect. Like, I just remember, like, I would read oh, there are this many flights that take off and land in a day. And I'd be like, oh, that's a comforting fact. But when it came to like the actual anxiety, that's not what like really pushed me to like get the fear under control. So yeah,
So,
I wonder if there's more interesting
maybe
tools
you
we can
remember
use.
the last time I talked to you, I told you I had a friend who was like into conspiracy theories and such and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'd been kind of talking with this friend, and of course, he's not anti-vax, but he had his, his scruples about it, naturally, if you're into like conspiracy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I told him like, hey, let's look at the data together
Yeah.
about the mRNA vaccine. So I showed him the trial data for the mRNA vaccine, and then we went over, well, we didn't, we together went over, but I went over and gave him my opinion for there was a 2023 umbrella meta-analysis. I think there's a recent one too that came out, a meta-analysis for the COVID vaccines. But I was looking at one
I'm
from
sure there are.
2023.
Uh-huh.
And I told him all the numbers, like, yeah, they're this much effective, there's these adverse events that happened. And he sort of, he like collapsed on the adverse event stuff, like the
Mm-hmm.
acute myocarditis kind of thing, and
Mm-hmm.
whatever pericarditis or whatever else it was. Um, like he really collapsed onto that. Like any kind of adverse event was immediate red flag for him. And I try to explain to him that, like, well, not so they're not 100% safe and effective, but they do have adverse events, and that's expected. And even in the trial data, they gave, their sort of assessment of the risk that it's not zero, but there is low risk for rare adverse events. So it's all within the expectation of the data. But he insisted like, no, they need to wait 15 years and do the trials before they can call it, safe enough. So I think
Mm-hmm.
there's part of it is probably just sort of like not understanding how to sort of account for what they view as like unacceptable risk, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, I just like, well, I mean, commercial airline accidents happen. Hell, more people died in commercial airline accidents last year. What, 80 plus between several crashes, like the one in the Potomac and then the UPS MD-11.
Mm-hmm.
More people died in that than anybody died from the mRNA vaccine. It's
Mm-hmm.
just this like boogeyman thing. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
any bit of negativity is enough for them. And it's hard to get through to them that like, well, the alternative to in terms of the risk for the mRNA, the alternative is getting this really horrible disease that does way the heck worse than any of the adverse events do. It's just this sort of boogeyman thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's an attitude thing. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I think something that I take from my anxieties is like, my anxiety about flying was not rational, and I could recognize that, but like,
Hmm.
I also, it's also obvious from that is that other people's anxieties about things like vaccines might not be rational, but they have a lot of people online telling them that it is rational, that you should be afraid of vaccines for XYZ reason, whether it's the ingredients or adverse events, like whatever. They have people with like letters in front of their name telling them that. And so it's hard for them to parse. It can be harder, I think, for them to like parse through what is actually rational. Whereas with flying, you don't really have pilots being like flying is the most
Yeah,
unsafe thing in the world. There
that's right.
don't do it. Like pilots they fly planes for a living. Like they're not gonna say that. Um,
It
so
wouldn't make sense for them to.
no, it wouldn't. So it's like really, and there also just aren't grifters being like flying is the worst invention in the world and it's so dangerous and whatever. I mean,
But I
you know,
mean, that's what I
so
thought. I was
yeah.
like, how does this happen? Why is this a thing? but it is a thing because of X and Y reason. You know, yeah, it's just the, yeah, it's just like it's just the whole culture of health kind of being mixed up with this thing that's more sort of like precise and scientific, like vaccines. It's gotten mixed up into the whole thing. It's like, oh, well, you don't need a vaccine. All you need to do is take vitamin C and blah 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 and so forth. I mean, for me, like this is me personally because I came into this sort of thing some, I don't know, a year and a half ago without very much scientific knowledge. I watched Professor Dave's his tutorials on the immune system, and then I don't know if he has any particular stuff on vaccines on his tutorials, but I looked at some stuff about vaccines, and it just made logical sense to me as to how they work. You know, just following the sort of the logical, like, oh, they attenuate a virus or they do this other kind of, specimen, and it gets introduced, and it's like just like they say on the Quiv or whatever, like it's a software update for your immune system,
Right.
and it makes sense. Like, oh snap! Based on what I learned, that makes sense. So if more people understood like the actual logic as to how they work, I think that would be a big help.
Yeah, I think it is helpful. But yeah, I think logic only goes so far with when people have like taken such a strong emotional stance against vaccines. But one thing that I want to put into a video explainer format better is like yeah, you can either take a vaccine or you can like fight the real thing, and the logic just doesn't make sense to choose to fight the real thing, because it's like, in the case of like I mean, even the mRNA vaccine, it's like the mRNA is not a virus. It can't like produce a viable particle that's going to replicate and cause disease in you. But people don't want to take that, but then they're fine taking their chances against a virus, a full-fledged virus with lots of different proteins that can directly make you sick. And
Right.
like it just doesn't make sense. Or like particle vaccines where you have a toxoid that prevents you from getting sick from diphtheria, and people are like, no, I'll take my chances with a full-fledged bacteria that produces literal toxins. It's like,
What's a toxoid?
a toxoid is
Yeah.
it's a bacterial toxin that's basically been inactivated. So
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
All right,
that's
so same thing as like attenuation, right?
uh sort of, yeah, it's a similar concept.
Oh, okay.
Attenuation is like weakening the entire particle, like measles, mumps, rubella. That's an attenuated vaccine. But like mRNA vaccine is not attenuated. It's just a piece
Right.
of the
It's
virus.
the genetic.
So yeah, so similar to that, a toxoid vaccine is just one protein that has been inactivated.
Oh, okay. Just all right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll also tell you, in my opinion, I think it's also to do with just like the general education level, at least here in the U.S. I mean, I have a cousin. We were at a family gathering, and he said something like, "Oh, the mRNA vaccine is gene therapy."
Yeah.
And I don't know much about gene therapy, but I know that that's not what's happening because it's the mRNA vaccine. What does mRNA do? It gets packaged out of your nucleus. It doesn't go back.
Right.
That's just not how life works. I know that because I'm educated, at least on something that's rather fundamental in my opinion. And I also think it's just the education. Like I said, people they don't know. I mean, they hear about DNA, mRNA, proteins, blah blah blah, and so forth, and they don't understand that sort of like what they call the of the dogma, the central dogma of life or whatever.
Central dogma
They just don't.
of biology.
Yeah. It all just kind of mixes up in their head, and they hear, oh, they're putting this thing and that thing, and this does this and this does that. It's just, I mean, not everybody needs to understand the physics of flight, right?
Right.
But I mean, when it comes to something like how does our biology work, that's important. I think that's really important to understand because obviously here we are now where we have this culture of just sort of, fear monger and disinformation, and people aren't any of the wiser about it because they didn't, I don't think they learned these fundamental concepts in their education.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it,
Yeah,
it's
there's a lot of reasons.
there's a lot of reasons, yeah. It's it's tough. I mean, there's a lot to learn, and you can't be an expert in everything. And so, like, if someone is making you feel smart in an area, and a bullshitter can be very good at making their audience feel smart, then people will just take that and be like, "Oh, I know about that now." Um, when in
Yeah.
reality, it might
Hmm.
take more work to actually grasp these concepts. But yeah, it's hard. It's
Yeah,
hard.
this friend of mine who believes this
Right.
conspiracy stuff, we discuss it from time to time, and he'll send me sources to things. And it's like this is like the hippie thinking side of me, but he treats these podcaster people as almost like shamans or
Oh
something.
yeah.
Like, give me the information about the world and life. I want to understand, you know, the
What's
deep
the what
things.
what's the last thing he sent you?
Uh, he sent me a clip from Danny Jones' podcast. Are you familiar with that guy?
I feel like I've seen his channel before, but
Yeah,
yeah.
he has a lot of kind of like, well, he even had Professor Dave on. But he has a lot of these sort of like grifter type people, but also smart people too. And he sent me some podcasts where, and I'll admit it was among the more mild
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like conspiracy type stuff. It wasn't even conspiracy. They were having a discussion about the Greek language. Some guy, Dr. Amon, thinks that there was a lot of drug taking and sex going on in the ancient world, and this other PhD linguist dude, he's like, nah, not really. That doesn't really seem to say so in the data that we have. But he, I made a comment about like, yeah, I don't like Alex Jones, and he got offended by that because he loves Alex Jones.
Oh
So I
no.
mean, he sent me. I think Alex Jones is having some tiff with some Muslim guy named Sneeko or something. He sent me about that, and I was
Okay.
like, yeah, I don't really give a shit about any of this. So um, yeah, yeah, it's just like I said, it's a mixture of not being educated on like fundamental things that we really should be educated on. I mean, they teach this stuff on in your, and then middle school and high school.
Mm-hmm.
It's this sort of culture of mistrust going on. Um, and it all seems rather pointed as opposed to being consistent. Like, why aren't people saying this about pilots, and such?
Mm-hmm.
And generally just, yeah, yeah, kind of just a mixture of that. But I mean, you're doing a hell of a job with your channel.
Oh,
So I mean, as
thank
long as
you.
there's people like you doing their thing, especially on their free time, that's so important. I can't begin to describe how important that is.
Try my best. Yeah, thank you. It's
Yeah, yeah, it's much appreciated. I might eventually get around to maybe showing some of your stuff to him, so that might help him. I'm trying to help out his epistemology,
yeah.
about, just whenever you hear a thing, look up the data. If you don't trust the data, try to find a good reason to not trust it. If there isn't any, then maybe it's good data.
Yeah.
But
Like
yeah,
if
yeah,
you believe something, how do you disprove it? Like that's how scientists think. Like what's an experiment I could do that would disprove this if that's not the case, right?
right, yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's good. I'll bring that up, and whenever we talk about things. Anyways, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Jay. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. And I'll remember Fridays.
Fridays, yeah. I'm again sorry everybody. I said the wrong date in the last one. I literally like pulled up my calendar here and I was looking at the days and I just looked at the Saturday instead of the Friday.
That's
But
no problem. You're a busy guy. That's
yeah.
understandable. All right. Well, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Have a
Yeah.
good day.
You too.
Good luck with the AC.
Oh yes, it's much better now. Thank you.
Good.
Let me look at the chat here. I haven't kept up with it. Um let's see. Yeah, again, sorry to anybody who thought that this was happening tomorrow. That's my bad. I should have also created like the stream and the event on Discord earlier, but my week has been pretty busy. I say that, but part of that being busy is me taking time for myself. So, either way, I'm sorry. um, the next time I do this will be in August. Let's see. What's going on in the chat? Dr. John's there. Hey, Dr. John Laxton, friend of the channel. We used to fight anti-vaxxers on Twitter back in the day before a guy who did 2 salutes in a row behind an American seal took it over and ruined the platform. Hope you're doing good, Dr. John. Yeah, for those who didn't know, I'm not on Twitter anymore. Yeah, and life's been better without Twitter, honestly. That place was awful. Just like the worst of humanity getting amplified to the front page. The only downside is I'm less like plugged into like what the conspiracy theorists are actually saying. It used to be like I knew everything everyone was saying, everything that was going on. I could stay on top of it. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's all just the same stuff anyway. Like, it's just going to be someone else saying what was being said like 3 years ago or 3 months ago, just in a new way. No, you're definitely not missing anything on Twitter. It's awful. I mean, it is a shame because there was a nice community there of science communicators that I was like more plugged into, and like Dr. John was part of it, and now I don't keep in touch with many of them, which is a shame. But I mean, it's in my opinion, it's not worth being on Twitter for. Is there a straightforward link to the database of vaccine safety studies? Yeah, so did I compile several of them? Yes. So, 2 things. One of the best databases that has compiled a lot of the papers and has provided explanations on them is Vaxopedia. That's VAXODEIA. I can spell. Vaxopedia.org. Let me. Oh, God. I said I can spell, and then I misspelled it. Nobody saw that. It's run by Vince Iannelli. He's a medical doctor, I believe a pediatrician. He's been curating it for a long time. I also do have it's basically a link to a Zotero reference manager called covidresearch.net. I made a video about it, and it's like basically I have folders where I organize references, scientific papers, into like topics. Like I have a folder about residual DNA in COVID vaccines and all the references relevant to that topic in the folder. And I have notes by each reference, describing like what the paper is, what it shows, like what its context is within the topic. And then I made that video, and then I didn't touch it for many months. But recently I started adding to it again, for a project that I'll talk about sometime later. But yes, those are two places that Vaxopedia is definitely more comprehensive than what I have so far on that reference manager. But that is definitely, Vaxopedia is a good place to go for lots of different topics. Will I collaborate with Professor Dave again in the future? At some point, probably, yeah. Yeah, I like working with him. But you know, he doesn't always do vaccine related stuff, and he's self-sufficient on it. Like, he doesn't need me to make videos with him. But we've chatted about like keeping eyes out for like debate opportunities. So we're definitely like on each other's radar for that. But we have not had takers since we publicly humiliated Steve Kirsch and Pierre Corey. No one has wanted to debate us. And there have been people trying to get it to happen. Like the organizers of the Kirsch and Corey debate, they've reached out to multiple people. And I'll name some. I'll name Brett Weinstein. I'll name Peter McCullough. Lots of big anti-vaccine influencers. Who else? I believe Aaron Siri. You know, all those people, those kinds of people, the organizers have directly reached out to. The organizers even had Brett Weinstein's direct email, and he did not respond. He does not want to debate us publicly, of course. Do I think there will... Sorry, let's see the question. Do you think there's a point to debating anti-vaxxers, since the people who would believe them probably won't understand scientific literature or listen to you? So I mentioned this earlier in the stream, and it's actually what my talk was about at SciCon earlier this year, is I think there needs to be a specific approach to these debates where the point should be that not to try to like educate the audience necessarily, but the goal should be to show that the anti-vaxxer in question does not know what they're talking about. Because I think that's the only way you're going to have a strong impact on the audience in a positive way, because it will show the people who are on the fence or like new to the topic or just like maybe not too far gone. It'll show them that the anti-vaccine side just has no clue what they're talking about. And that's going to be I think that's going to have a big effect on like who they value listening to, right? Because their followers are still going to believe them probably. Their followers might be rattled though. Like their followers might watch that humiliation and go like, oh shit, should I be listening to this guy? Like they might not say it in the moment, but they might get rattled and move one step closer to like coming out of the rabbit hole, so to speak. So yeah, I think it's definitely worth debating anti-vaxxers with a specific intention in mind. And you know, it's not like the only way to debate. Like I know other people have their own approaches, but that's my approach and what I think people should be doing. And we need lots of different approaches, but again, that's my approach. Have you tried reaching out to Destiny? He might be able to connect you to people. I've chatted with Destiny before. I can do it again. I can. Yeah, I don't think I talked to him since Professor Dave and I did our debates. Maybe I'll do that soon. I'll send Destiny some clips of Professor Dave and I's debate and just say like, hey, if you ever like have an opportunity to like debate one of these people or connect me into something, like feel free. Yeah, I can do that. It's a good idea. Me versus Brett Weinstein on Rogan would be fire. Oh yeah, I would do that. After what happened to Flint Dibble, no one should go on Rogan. Um, I I I don't think I will ever get the chance to go on Rogan, but I would. And I think he needs someone to just like kind of smack him a little bit and be like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you being so dumb? Because he's like deep into this anti-vax stuff, and he gets very emotional about it. Like he gets angry quickly when it comes up. Um, but I think I could like, I could handle that. Um, I just don't think it's gonna happen. I don't think he's gonna invite someone like me on ever. Um, but yeah, I would do it, and I would debate someone like Brett Weinstein on his show. I think it would be important to to do it because Flint did a good job, but of course Joe Rogan turned around and just you, you know turned around and totally shit on Flint in ways that were like just so inappropriate, and said that Rogan was or said that Flint was lying about things and or being dishonest, and of course Flint wasn't there to defend himself. So yeah, it sucks. It sucks. But I think it was good for Flint to show, like, at least get Graham Hancock to admit that he doesn't really have evidence for his claims. Like, I think that was an important moment to have. Um, and like we've said, it's not going to get rid of all the pseudo archaeology stuff. Um, but it's important to have those moments so that the circle of influence doesn't grow. You know. Yeah, Flint is awesome. Flint is awesome. I've chatted with Flint. I hope he's doing well. Um, it's been a while since I uh, wrote to him. Okay. Oh, thank you for the super chat. Afifi96. You say, unrelated, but I'm curious, what's your favorite song and the one you've listened to the most amount of time? Fave, Star Wars 6 Victory Celebration. Oh, is that yours? Okay. My favorite song and the one I've listened to the most. Um, Probably I mean, it changes on the vibe, on depending on the vibe. Um, but one song that has stuck with me for a very long time and that I will listen to a lot. Um, well, a lot of songs from a band called Explosions in the Sky. Love them. They're a post rock band. They just like are perfect for like if you're taking a walk, if you want to focus, if you just want to like relax. Their album The Earth Is Not a Cold Dead Place, just it's perfect for me. I love that. Um, Hope that answers your question. Like, favorite song though is of course Your Hand in Mine on that album. Um, it's perfect. But again, thank you for the super chat. Um, yeah, I cut my hair. It's been like 6 years since it's been this short. It was too hot. It was too hot. Uh, how do I write that? The band is Explosions in the Sky. The album is called The Earth Is Not a Cold Dead Place. What's my take on alcohol consumption? It's not healthy. Look, I drink bourbons, but I know it's not healthy. It's alcohol is literal poison. Like, there's nothing good about it that it does to your body. Um, in any form, like gin, beer, bourbon, doesn't matter. It's all alcohol. It's not healthy. But you can have a healthy relationship with it. Like you can enjoy it and keep yourself at a low risk of it ever, like, actually harming you. Um, but yeah, it shouldn't be seen as something that's healthy in any sense. It's just you have to understand it and have a good relationship with it. Alcohol was safer than Oh, okay. Yeah. That's actually so in the through the course of human evolution, yeah, alcohol was safer when we didn't have safe drinking water. You could put some alcohol in in your water or in your beverage of choice, and it would kill the microbes. Children in ancient cultures would drink diluted wine because it was safer than drinking water. Um, so, but yeah, times have changed. It's not the same. Um, Alcohol is not healthy, and yeah, you should drink as little as possible. I agree. It's not nearly as healthy as raw milk. Well, I don't know. If people were drinking raw milk at the same quantities that they were drinking alcohol, I think it would be more harmful. Raw milk. Um, but thankfully, not a lot of people drink raw milk. Um, Miguel Kosha says Pharmashell. Well, I mean, I don't have a lot more time because I got to go get my kids close to 5, and I do want to let my dog out. Um, but if you want to come on the Discord and tell me why you think I'm a Pharmashell, you can do that. I don't watch Scott Carney. No. Recently did a video on the kratom kava tincture thingy. Yeah, I've heard about kratom. It's the new K2 or salvia. It's crazy how people can just sell this shit unregulated, and like there's no standards in its manufacturing. It's just like, here you go. Here's some stimulants. It might be laced with something. It might be fine. I don't know. And gas stations are like, hell yeah, dude, give it to me. And then people are like, yeah, I want it. It's weird. But then they're like, no, I don't like vaccines. Let me eat this. Let me eat this plant that is basically like it's in the coffee family, kratom is, but it's more like an opiate. But it acts as a stimulant at lower doses. It's an interesting plant, but like yeah, it's like totally wild to buy that from a gas station when you don't know what's in it, um, and like be opposed to actual regulated, tested drugs. We took kratom for a couple years. Amazing stuff. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, my understanding is like there are workers who eat. I mean, I guess kratom is like the brand product, whatever, that's in gas stations right now, and the plant is something that workers would eat in the field because it at those doses it acts like a stimulant. Um, oh, you're glad you're not on it anymore. Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't. I've heard doctors talk about it saying they wouldn't recommend it. I listened to the Sawbones episode about it, the from the McElroy podcasting dynasty. It's a good podcast, and yeah, she doesn't recommend it. I'll answer a few more questions, and oh God, okay. Um, Okay, I'm looking at the Discord now. Scott, I'm sorry, I didn't answer your question. Okay, let's say I got 15 minutes left max. Let's say that. Um, Scott, I'll answer your question next. And then I see that there are two new people in the Discord chat. We'll see if we can fit them in. Scott says, my cousin is a dean of medical students in the Caribbean. He's one of many doctors that was impacted by the anti-science mobs. He left social media in 2020 because of the hate. Want to help motivate him to return to social media to do one of Professor Dave's Get to Know Scientist videos, but I don't know how to help. Okay. Yeah, that's tough if he left social media because of the hate. Um, it's it's I want to say like, if you left because of the hate and you're doing better, that's great. Like, do what's best for you. You don't have to come back to deal with hateful people on the internet. But I will say that if you do something like Professor Dave's Get to Know a Scientist video, uh, he can deal with the hate. He can deal with the hate from his haters, and he's very used to that. Um, and you can just leave a little bit of positivity on the internet for someone to get inspired by. So that would be my pitch to get you to come back and do one of Professor Dave's Get to Know a Scientist videos. Um, I hope that helps. um, I see that there's someone in the Discord chat. A dot dot dot. Did you want to say something? I have maybe like 12 minutes left, and then I definitely should get going. But if you want to talk, feel free.
Is that me? Hello.
Hey, I can hear you. What's up?
Hey Dan. It's good. Tony or Akpe. Doesn't matter how you pronounce my name, my nickname. Just so you're doing those call-in shows. Again, I joined way too late for it. But I've been here like 5 minutes. I do have a comment on toxicity on the internet, especially against health professionals and scientists. I'm from Greece, so we have a saying here that it's usually the empty tin cans that do a lot of noise.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're not as many as we think they are, as we believe they are. That's my point of view.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't give them more credit than they actually are. Of course, that's not out for you or for me. I'm a professional fact checker in science, so we know it's not the case. But many people, especially during the past few years, believe that they are a lot more than they actually are. And well, that's something.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, a lot of the hateful people online are very loud, but I remember back when I was more active on Twitter, we would talk about how there's all these anti-vaxxers seemingly getting all this attention online, but then in real life, if you start asking people around you, like, hey, do you know who this person is? Like, most people aren't gonna know who these influencers are. It's just their spheres of influence online who really, really know them. And
it's
it's
like
they make
they're
a lot of
seeking
noise.
their own self-affirmation and their own 15 minutes of fame, or how you want to translate this to the terms of the internet. It's just that, at least on my opinion. I used to be one of them, right? Not anti-vaxxer, but when I was younger, I was borderline. You can call me not a science denier. I was into all those conspiracy theories. Everything I heard or read somewhere, I immediately deep dived into it. And I do believe I can see the way they think, the way they behave. It's all about, having the secret knowledge that nobody else has. It makes them feel superior, right? So it's a very solid and I would say addictive psychological thing they
Mm-hmm.
try to keep. And yeah,
Yeah.
we've seen what happens with that the past 6 years or so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they make a lot of noise and they find their communities online and they together make a lot of noise. And uh, yeah, I think in my like normal life, I've only ever met one person who was like, telling me to my face like, "Oh yeah, Elon Musk saved the world by buying Twitter." I'm like, "Oh God." Meeting someone in real life like that was a trip, but I think it's only been once that I've actually met someone like that. So yeah, being online and seeing how loud they are can give a false impression as to like how prevalent they are. But right now in America, you see like who's in charge, and you're like, oh God, there's a lot of people out there like that. So
They kind of found the perfect timing to get out of their hole.
yeah.
Phrasing, but you know what I mean.
Hmm. Hmm.
I do have many friends from the US, and what I keep saying to them is that, you know, those people in power, they are not you. They are not, Dan, Albert, whoever else is there. Because I do have a feeling that, the sane ones among you, kind of feel embarrassed by this. I'm not sure if they should. I'm not sure if you should, but
Mm.
oh well, we have to reach the bottom of the pit, the bottom of the barrel, to start climbing upward, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully, you're over that. Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
kind of wishful thinking there. All right, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna stay in line just in case someone else wants to join. So
Okay.
nice. By the way, where's the hair? Where's the afro?
I cut it. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was.
Ah,
I was saying
it's
earlier,
okay.
it got too hot where I live, and my HVAC, my
Oh boy, yeah.
central air in the home, died after it was past its warranty, and it was just a really hot week, and so I'm like, I want to get rid of this, but
Quick
it'll grow back.
pro tip. Yeah, they always do. I mean, to
Yeah.
those of you who still have hair. But quick pro tip for anyone living in a hot and humid environment. I took, I had a crazy decision. I had a crazy thought of saving my head this summer because it's hot, like it's close to 100 degrees in Greece, and never completely save your head because even the tiniest little hair you have prevents sweat from,
Oh, okay.
stupidest idea I've ever had, but oh boy.
It just like runs down your face now.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, it's you've seen the GIF, GIF, whatever.
yeah.
of the
It's like that in real
camping.
life.
Exactly. God damn it. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't say that online.
Oh, it's fine.
Anyway.
It's fine.
All
We're
right.
we're okay with it
All right.
here.
Thanks for doing this, Dan. Hopefully next time I'll be on a lot earlier.
Yeah, no problem.
So- Take care. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, thank you. You too. Thanks for calling in. All right. Well, not if, I should get going. I've been here for how long now? It's been like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. I should get going. I should walk my dog. Come here, buddy. Come here, Tobes. Come show the people who you are. Come here. He's a medium-sized dog, but he thinks he's a lap dog. Come here. Come on. There we go. There he is. There's his Toby. He wants to go outside, and then I have to go get my kids. Oh God, a super chat right as I'm trying to say bye. Thank you, Ned Flanders. He says, just want to express my appreciation for everything you do. It's critical that we get you into the public eye as much as possible. Please let us know how we can help you do that. Oh, just, you can share my stuff as much as you want. That's really all I can ask. But yeah, thank you for the super chat. Yeah, when he gets up into my lap like this, that's him telling me he really wants to go outside. So, okay. Thank you for everybody. who came to listen, everybody who came to call in and talk. Really appreciate you. I'm gonna try to be. Yeah, you can hear his tail. I'm gonna try to get my next video out where I do have hair still. I'm editing it. Gonna try to get it finished next week. Ugh. And then I'll be filming new videos. Jesus Christ, Toby. Okay. Thank you all again. Hopefully I'll have a new video out next week. Have a great weekend, and I hope that you all continue doing good things in your life. So, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time.